Alright, let's chat about Pokemon Go. So
Hang
today,
on, we haven't decided what I'm going to say when you introduce me.
just go with the flow, man, and
I
see if
did
it
that.
works.
You made fun of me last time.
Alright, let's chat about Pokemon Go. So today I'm here with my good friend, Professor Rod.
That's me.
Alright, let's chat about Pokemon Go. So today I'm here with my...
Start again.
Alright, let's chat about Pokemon Go. So today I'm here with my friend Professor Rod. And Rod, what were your kind of first thoughts about the game? We both downloaded it yesterday. Walk us through your first thoughts.
To be honest, initially I thought I was pretty excited. I thought it was cool. Catching my first starter, getting Charmander and all that kind of stuff. But then as soon as I sort of got into the game a bit more, that's when you start to notice a few things aren't quite what you'd expect. I think expectations were pretty high. It's Pokemon, it's pretty hype. Everyone wants it to be really cool. And it's, initially for the first 5 minutes, it's like, yeah, that's still there. And you're like, this is going to be great. What's happening? And then as you get more and more into it, it's just disappointment.
Yeah, I think I experienced the same thing. There was a lot of hype. Well, to be fair, they didn't hype it up themselves too much. Okay, scratch that.
Well, no, you're right. Like, they didn't... The initial trailer did. The initial trailer was huge and looked really fucking cool. But after that, I didn't see a lot of hype. Did you? Maybe I just missed it.
No, I didn't see a lot of hype, which is why I was saying that in the first place. I remember that initial trailer, and that was like, looked so epic.
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone knew that's not at all how the game was going to be, but it was still exciting. You know, Pokemon augmented reality, it was kind of like, based on their previous history, I thought they're going to do it well, and they're going to nail it, and it's going to be epic. Then I heard nothing about it, and then it launched like yesterday. I mean, I heard of the beta, but I was never involved, and it launched yesterday, and great.
Yeah, it did sort of seem to disappear, and I remember you'd have to sort of go and read the blogs and the updates on Nintendo's Pokemon page or the Pokemon Company's page or whatever it is, to get any information, and even then it was pretty scant. It didn't really say what was going to happen. I remember reading that the guys who made Ingress were doing it because they had a lot of experience in that augmented reality kind of space. I didn't realize they were literally just going to take their existing game and put Pokemon on it. It didn't seem like that's the direction they wanted it to go in. So, I mean, maybe that's why it's been so quiet, because things went wrong. It was a huge... I mean, it's a big undertaking for them to do, and so maybe that's why you haven't heard about it, because it's just not what they wanted it to be.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, first things first, the quality of the app itself. It's pretty lackluster. I mean, there's a lot of room for improvement there.
Yeah. there's a fair bit.
Like, the performance is shit. It crashes a lot, and it drains the fuck out of your battery. And there's pretty much not a lot else left to make an app good or bad other than those three things.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's the content of the app, but...
Yes.
But I see what you're saying. It's like, I remember you saying yesterday when we were playing it, like, oh, it's crashed and now I can't get back in and all that, and I was having a laugh because it hadn't crashed for me at that point at all.
Thanks.
It was fine.
Thanks.
But playing it today and even later last night, it's crashed a lot. The battery thing is a nightmare. That's, to me, the battery is the most unforgivable thing, because it's a game that's forcing you to go out and adventure and catch Pokemon. But your phone, literally an iPhone 6, iPhone 6s, whatever Samsung Galaxy S7s and all that, they'll be dead in an hour if you're using it, because you have to have it open. It's using really specific GPS tracking, and it's clearly coded like shit. And you watch the battery dropping by the percent, like every couple minutes, there goes another percent.
Yeah, that's like one of the biggest things for me, is that you have to have it open to get any benefit whatsoever of having the app. And I can understand that. Maybe that dongle that they advertised earlier on needs to come out sooner to make the kind of the walking around and leveling up your eggs, or what, you know, some components of it just happen while you walk. And that aspect is just like non-existent, because you can't keep the app open because it's so bad.
Yeah, and I mean, the dongle hopefully will alleviate some of that, but it's it doesn't seem like it's going to be enough. Like, sure, that'll help with the battery, but the core issue there is the coding and the way it's made, because you're still going to have to get your phone out to do the gyms and all that kind of stuff. And when the core functionality at that is so severely limited by that, it seems like that's something that needs to be addressed.
So you mentioned earlier that it kind of feels like a reskinned Ingress, and I'm definitely not going to argue with that. It does, from what I know of Ingress. What kind of components do you think it's missing that it hasn't kind of embraced from the Pokemon franchise?
Like the core components of battling each other and trading. I don't know why they're not there. Those are like the two things that I remember from playing Pokemon as a kid, is you could battle your friends and you could trade. And that's it was such a thing, because at the time none of the games did that on Game Boy and stuff, and it became like you'd get a link cable because you had Pokemon and you wanted to do that, and eventually other games, and probably at the time other games, but it was never as big as Pokemon and how they did it so well. And it's always been a thing. Now you can do it online, and they have tournaments, it's competitive, and yet it's not included in this, and I just feel like that was something we all just expected would be there, and it's not.
Yeah, I feel like it's there on a global scale, but that real kind of personal PvP environment has been completely forgotten. It's not like it's been lost, it's just been completely ignored. They haven't even bothered to include it.
Yeah, not even on a small scale of like one-on-one quick battles. Like the gyms aren't full-on battles like you expect from the Game Boy games or whatever, which is fine. But to not even include that element, like just with your friends at home or whatever, it seems like a pretty stupid decision.
Yeah, like you're here tonight we pretty much met tonight to play some Pokemon, but there was other than enjoying each other's experience of the game, there was no connection, or there was no reason that we would need to ever be together to play the game.
Yeah.
We were both individually walking around catching and fighting Pokemon and whatnot, and it felt very separate, even though the idea of it is globally to connect people and join these teams and fight and battle gyms, which is kind of there. It's just lost the personal touch, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. There's that connectivity just isn't there, and beyond like stalking poor guys on train stations to see if he's playing it on his phone or not, there's no other way to really tell, and then that's just kind of creepy. But at the one time actually when we got to the gym and we put our Pokemon on it and we battled and trained on the gym and all that kind of jazz that happens there, and then you can see whose Pokemon are there, and I saw you and you saw me. That was when that excitement happened, and that was probably the most excited and the most fun we had with it, was getting to the gym, being able to battle, and seeing each other's Pokemon at that gym as part of the whole thing. And if everything had that involvement, that connectivity, then it's going to be what everyone expects and what everyone wants. But at the moment, it doesn't have that, and I think just that's a real good indicator of how exciting that was and how many people were crowded around the gym getting into it and being really excited about that. It's a great indication of, like, it needs to go there. That's what everyone is expecting and wanting.
Yeah, it kind of feels like an MVP or a beta or a pilot, and that they have kind of soft launched this in the hopes that they can gather as much feedback before they do an epic big scale launch to the world. And maybe we are kind of feeling some of that pain as a test bed, because I know they've launched kind of only in select areas of the world. And it feels like the components of that connectivity are there. Like the fact that you have to have a unique name was interesting to me to see, purely because there's a lack of any reason for that in the game. Like, you have to have a unique name, you choose how your character looks to some degree, but the only time that is ever relevant is when you go to a gym, and then there's just a whole bunch of strangers with random aliases that I don't know, and I can't add them as friends, I can't connect with them. It is just purely a figure standing at a gym.
Yeah, it does seem like there's a lot of things, say the reason for a unique name, that are pointing towards them having a bigger overall plan. And like leaving your Pokemon at the gym, you can't view it, you can't like check in on the status of it when you're away from that gym. And so when you see things like that, maybe it is an MVP, maybe it's still in beta stage, And we are kind of testers, and they often do that with Australia and New Zealand, where they send it to us to be at that stage. It just seems a bit odd that they wouldn't announce that, because they're kind of presenting it as a full game. And if it's at the level where it's not actually a completed package, surely they would have said something, or they'd say like, oh, we're just, big things are coming, but we wanted to get it out and get feedback as soon as possible.
Yeah, I would be really interested to know how far they've taken it from the early beta stages to now, and have they added any features based on feedback, or was it purely for performance and scaling that they did that? Because from what I kind of saw, nothing much has changed.
Yeah, I don't think a lot has. I think, I don't know, I didn't do the beta either, but yeah, I guess we'll see in regards to that kind of stuff, whether it's going to be something bigger, whether they have bigger plans. But like you said, there's some of the features in it at the moment seem like they could be taken in that direction. And it is missing some core gameplay that you'd expect, so maybe it just does seem a bit strange that they haven't said if that's the plan. That seems like something you definitely want everyone to know.
Okay, all negatives aside, we have been having a lot of fun with it. I know like everyone at my work is pretty much playing it. We went for a walk in the afternoon just to collect some Pokestops. We know that other companies nearby us have teams of people who went on like a 3-hour Pokemon catching heist today. We were walking down the main street and just cracking up at everyone who had their phones out, knowing that they were playing Pokemon, and 99% of them were playing Pokemon. I mean, it's crazy how popular it is right now, and it has a lot of really good components to it. I mean, the gyms are fun, as you said. That was kind of the most fun that we had, is going to that gym, seeing a whole bunch of people crowded around a random corner on the street, and seeing us appear on the, in the app itself. It was that was the best moment for me.
Yeah, it was definitely, and like you said, walking down the street, seeing all the people playing was something, and it kind of elicited a real excitement about it. My fear is that they're going to lose that if they don't kind of bring the quality up a bit. But there are, like, as you said, all negatives aside, there's some good points as well, and that's one of them. There's also, for me personally, I was really worried about the rarity of the Pokemon, people just picking their favorites, people picking the strongest ones. And they seem to have eliminated that, because my strongest Pokemon at the moment is a Dodrio, and that's not something I've ever used in any games. It's not a Pokemon I particularly like, but it just happens to be the one that appeared, the one I keep getting more of the Pokemon vitamins or whatever for. And so I can level it up, and it just seems like they've really managed to, whether intentional or not, nail a way that people only get the common Pokemon, and you see Golbats and Raticates and stuff at the gyms at the moment, because that's all the people can level up. And that's a really cool thing, because it means that there's a whole variety of Pokemon, and it's common ones and the rare ones are actually going to be rare, and the starters aren't just everywhere because you can't level them up yet and things like that. And to me, that's really positive. That's something they've done and completely smashed out of the park in terms of getting it on point.
Yeah, I completely agree. The excitement when you see a Pokemon that you haven't seen before, whether it's at a gym or wild, is really, it's really exciting. It's a huge moment, because they've kept that rarity under wraps, and they've made the rarer Pokemon more rare, and that's something that I fully respect them for doing. Along with that, I do question how, as you said, like, people used to just kind of get their favorite Pokemon and level them up. Everyone had Dragonites because they were kind of the strongest Pokemon, because they were Dragon type, they had the best stats, everything. But it's really interesting to see how they're going to handle those stats, because as far as I know, the types matter. There's super effective and non-effective move types, but in terms of the core strength of a Pokemon, it doesn't seem like yet that certain types of Pokemon are innately stronger than others, which so far, I mean, I'm doubting myself there, but I do feel like if they kept it that way, that's a really cool component, because you would have all of these types of Pokemon that are on a somewhat level playing field, and I think it's quite a unique aspect to Pokemon.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that. I haven't actually looked too much into it. There's no strength or special attack, or what are they? Attack, special attack, defense, blah blah blah. You don't see those stats, and the moves all have power, but there doesn't seem to be any particularly strong versus weak Pokemon. They all have HP, which I guess would differ, but who knows? Maybe behind the scenes there are stats and it's going to unbalance. But it would be really fucking cool if it was more like an even playing field where you could have a Beedrill that was epic and could take on a Dragonite or something like that, because it would just, again, like you said, it would mean everyone would be running around with different Pokemons, and then they could use their true favorites, because heaps of people like Clefairies and Jigglypuffs and stuff like that, but they just never get used because, well, yeah, because they're just not competitive. They're not at the level that can compete.
I used to hate that about Pokemon. I really did, because you'd have these somewhat cool looking Pokemon like Beedrill, you know, obviously subjective, but Beedrill like looks like a badass Pokemon, and then it's just weak as shit, and no matter what level you get it to or what moves you teach it or anything, a Beedrill is just shit in the original games.
Yeah. Well, any bug Pokemon really, besides maybe Scyther.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited to see how this plays out, because as you said, right now, if you want to see more of this content, then hit that subscribe button, and if you like today's video, then hit around us. Thumbs up. They seem to be kind of dominating all of the gyms.
Like and subscribe!
So it's going to be interesting when someone gets something like a Dragonite or a Dragonair or something. Is that going to just destroy everyone and be the, you know, are they going to dominate the gyms, or is it going to be...
And how far out are you going to have to go to get them? Does that mean you're going to have to travel out of the city to like the Wops somewhere, and that's where you'll get them? Because that would be epic, because it means the only people that can go out there and get them, which would just be like if Pokemon was real. You'd only get the Dragonites or Dratinis or whatever if you went out and a cave in the middle of nowhere. But your phone's going to be dead by the time you get there, so...
Alright, cool. So those are our initial thoughts on Pokemon Go. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section below.